Good morning and welcome to Football League World TV. My name is Ned Holmes and I'm joined by my Football League World colleague Marcus Ali this morning to talk all things Charlton Athletic and specifically about whether Ben Garner can have success at the Valley and perhaps even bring promotion this season. How are you doing this morning, Marcus?
Yeah, really well. Thanks, Ned. I'm excited for this one. I haven't had too many opportunities to talk about Garner and Charlton's prospects moving into 22-23. So, no, glad to be on.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot for us to get our teeth into, certainly. But before we get going, a reminder, as always, please do like and share the video if you can. Subscribe to Football League World TV on YouTube if you haven't already. And let us know your thoughts in the comments. If you're a Charlton fan or a fan of another EFL club, please do let us know your thoughts on sort of what you expect Charlton to accomplish this season and whether you think Garner is the man to take them forward. Well, let's start in the beginning then, Marcus. At the end of last season, Johnny Jackson departs after Charlton finished at 13th. I think it was just 6 months after he'd been given the permanent job. Obviously, Johnny Jackson, a bona fide club legend, a player, a captain, an assistant manager, then the manager. But in your eyes, sort of the right call there to pull the trigger?
For me, it was really harsh. I still feel that way. I did initially. And even taking a step back, I do think you couldn't have asked too much more of Jackson. He had one January transfer window to really put his stamp on the squad, and he did change a lot compared to what he took over under Nigel Adkins in terms of style of play and the values that he had. Also, yeah, I just don't think he got a fair crack at it. To be honest, the club were 4 points adrift inside the relegation zone when he took over in late October. So I think to get them to have outside views of a playoff push at one stage is a credit to the job that he did. And to come very close 13th to finish in that top half, I thought was progress and a job that should stand him in good stead for his managerial career. In terms of judging it as the right decision, I think it's definitely too early to say. The proof will really be in the pudding when we get to see what Ben Garner's about in the opening few months of the season, potentially even how Jackson gets on at Wimbledon as well. But yeah, clearly a really big change in styles and a new direction that Thomas Sandgaard wants to take Charlton on the pitch. Garner, of course, an appointment with more of a coaching background than Jackson had. So I think an answer will come more categorically further down the line. But still, at this stage, I do think it was a harsh dismissal, considering the promise that Charlton showed at times in the second half of the last season.
Yeah, let's move on to Garner then. Obviously led Swindon Town to the playoffs last season in League Two, a sort of a free scoring and an attack-minded team. Really good to watch for if you're a Swindon fan or a neutral. What are your initial thoughts on that appointment? You've said there, the proof is really going to be in the pudding, of course. But what are your initial thoughts on Garner? And were you impressed with what we saw from Swindon last season?
Definitely. It was tough circumstances that he took over at Swindon as well, kind of rushing to get a squad together before the season. So to finish in the playoffs was very impressive. And of course, the style of which they did it was very attractive and seems like the biggest thing that has sort of made Charlton go and get him rather than them finishing, I think it was 6th in League Two, sort of as a standalone achievement. I think it's a risk. He's an unproven manager at League One level, obviously. Did okay at Bristol Rovers. They ended up dropping more after he left the club that season with Joey Barton taking over, but it wasn't going completely to plan. So he is unproven at the level. It's a risk in that regard. But I think it's a bold one because they are prioritising style of play at this stage. I think the attitude of most Charlton supporters is probably, I'll take anything that gets us out of League One. So to move away to something that could potentially take more time, but is potentially more ambitious and has a higher ceiling in the long run is an interesting call. Yeah, the word I would use is bold, as is his style of play and the sort of stubbornness that he talks about using and not changing the way that he's going to approach games. So yeah, it's going to be a really intriguing one to see how he gets on. The jury's out on his credentials as a League One manager, really. Obviously, just one full season at Swindon as well, but he did get them playing some really exciting football as well, which I'm sure Charlton fans will be hoping to see quickly when the season starts.
Absolutely. Well, we'll circle back to sort of what we can expect from Garner and Charlton in his first season, but we're going to look at some of the transfer business and the squad. I think it's 6 players departing permanently from Charlton this summer. Marcus, from your perspective, any you're sort of particularly happy to see go? Any like to have seen stay? I'd imagine Connor Washington probably one that you feel would have been useful to keep at the Valley.
Yeah, there was quite a bit of deadwood in that squad, to be honest. Players that weren't really involved in the last few months of last season anyway. So the writing was on the wall for the likes of Stephen Henderson, Ben Watson, Pat Soiree, and Chris Gunter, of course. Adam Matthews, a player as well that I was probably glad to see the back of, to be honest. I don't think he really matched the levels in League One over the last 2 seasons as he did in the Championship in 2019-20. Washington, I would have kept. Was very disappointed to see that one. Obviously, there's an argument that he's taken a move to a Championship club in Rotherham, whether Charlton would have been able to keep him anyway. But he did vocally say that, speak out and say that Charlton hadn't really got in contact with him in regards to a new contract in the first place. For me, that was something I would have been prioritising sort of midway through, if not approaching the halfway stage of last season. Ben Purrington as well was a player that I think we probably could have done with keeping as a sign for Ross County at the end, but I think was a very reliable left back for the level. Not too spectacular, but I think in his versatility, threat from set pieces, I think Purrington was a player that Charlton probably could have kept hold of. And then Akin Famewo as well, of course, was only on loan from Norwich, but there was an option to buy, has since signed for Sheffield Wednesday. Obviously, I don't know what that fee was. Potentially, it was a little bit extortionate compared to Famewo's up and down performance levels last season. But I was disappointed to see him move on to a direct rival. I think at 23, 24, I think he is now. That's a player that has the best years ahead of him, and I could have seen in the Charlton first team for years to come. So I was a little bit disappointed not to see them exercise that option with Famewo. 3 players that maybe nag at me a little bit. But I think some of the replacements have been good so far in the transfer window. There's a way to go, but definitely recoverable positions that the Charlton should be able to replace in a better way as we move on to the sort of second half of the transfer window.
Yeah, I certainly agree with you on Famewo there. I think a fairly nominal fee touted for that move to Sheffield Wednesday as well, and he looks a player with a bright future. We've had a comment in from Lawrence Salter. He says, "Morning, gents. Charlton fan here. Been listening so far, and I have to agree on the sacking of Jacko as harsh. However, some games you could see his stubbornness to change the game plan. If you do have any comments, any thoughts on Ben Garner or on the signings Charlton have made, or sort of Charlton's hopes for the season, please do get involved via the comments." Let's move on to the signings then, Marcus. Joe Woolacott signs from Swindon to bolster the goalkeeping options. A strong showing from him in League Two last season. A good signing in your eyes, and someone you expect to take the number 1 shirt?
There's definitely potential there. I think that's clear to see. Woolacott's still a very young goalkeeper in terms of sort of when they typically peak in their careers. We'll be going to the World Cup with Ghana, which will be exciting to see, and was a crucial cog in the way that Swindon played last season. Wasn't first choice towards the back end, but I believe that was more to do with a contract dispute rather than Lewis Ward moving above him in the pecking order. So it's going to be interesting to see how he gets on. Obviously, with the style of play that Ghana's looking to implement, goalkeeper is a very important position in terms of building attacks and building out from the back in possession. So it's going to be interesting to see how he deals with that and what his skill level is like with the ball at his feet compared to Craig McGillivray. In terms of whether he's going to be number 1 or not, I'm still unsure. I think it's going to be interesting to see. In pre-season so far, minutes have been fairly equal between the 2 goalkeepers. McGillivray played 90, I believe, in midweek against Colchester United. I didn't see the game, but I think McGillivray played the full 90. But that said, I would expect Woolacott to play the full 90 at Sutton United this weekend. And then you go into that last friendly, the sort of dress rehearsal, Swansea at home, the Saturday before the season starts, where I think we're really going to see what Garner's starting 11 for the first league game is in his head right now. And obviously in that, whether he's edging towards Woolacott or McGillivray. Yeah, I don't think the Scotsman is particularly suited to Garner's style of play. He has had some hiccups with his distribution in just one full season at the Valley. So you would expect, given that he's gone and taken Wollacott with him to the Valley, that he is going to be first choice. But at the moment, I'm not too sure. There was one pre-season friendly, Wollacott's first appearance. He let in a little bit of a howler with a miscontrol and a tap in for Carl Lafferty, I think it was, for Kilmarnock. So going to be interesting to see. I have seen over the years in various loan spells in League Two for Wollacott, Forest Green, one that sticks out in my mind in particular, that there was some hiccups with playing out from the back, which there always is, especially at sort of League One and League Two level. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. And it's a test of sort of how bold Garner's going to be straight off the bat, I think, in League One, whether he's going to prioritise league results and maybe stay with a safer pair of hands, potentially, like McGillivray, with more experience at the level, or if he's going to go, nail his colours to the mast and put Wollacott in from the start and try and stick with the philosophy that he's looking to implement. So at the moment, I would probably edge towards Wollacott starting the first game away at Accrington Stanley, but I still think there's competition to be had, and I would possibly assume that Garner hasn't made his mind up completely either.
Absolutely. We're moving into sort of the defensive signings. Another Swindon player in Mandela Egbo joins Owen O'Connell from Rochdale, the centre-back, and Stephen Sessegnon on loan from Fulham. What do you make of those sort of defensive additions, Marcus? And do you think in Egbo and Sessegnon, we're looking at evidence that I guess Garner is going to want those fullbacks to play a big role in the attack and in that final third?
Yeah, definitely. I like the look of all three signings, players with their best years ahead of them. It looks like we're going to play a four at the back formation, and Garner's going to look to take a more possession-based approach. I think Swindon had the highest possession, average share of possession per match in League Two last season, which of course puts so much influence on your fullbacks bombing on to create those overloads in the final third, trying to break teams down. So yeah, it's going to be exciting to see how Sessegnon fits in. Showed promise in glimpses on loan at Plymouth in the second half of last season, but it's still a player that hasn't really had a season of completely regular action as a first choice. Just since stepping up into the senior game. I like the look of Mandela Egbo as well. Has had an interesting career path, MLS, Borussia Mönchengladbach, but Garner's known him since he was a kid at Crystal Palace. So there's clearly a relationship there, and he looks like a player at 24 that's ready to make his first proper step up and really kick on and start progressing in his career. Unfortunately, suffered a knee injury, so he is going to miss the first few weeks of the season. We'll sort of learn more in the coming weeks how serious that is, but he definitely looks like an intriguing signing and did impress me for the Robins in that playoff semi-final tie against Port Vale last season. Owen O'Connell as well, I think is possibly even the marquee signing of the window for Charlton. Obviously, centre-back, when you're looking to play out from the back, is such an important position. In the friendlies that I've seen, he does look very, very comfortable on the ball, even playing as a left centre-back, as a right footer. And even though this is probably something of a speculative suggestion, I think Owen O'Connell is maybe my early shout for Charlton Player of the Season from what I've seen. And I think the leadership qualities that he could bring in what could be an up-and-down season as well. So, yeah, very impressed with those three additions. I'm expecting quite a lot of goals at both ends for Charlton this season, just with the way that they're going to play. But I'm happy with the three defensive additions. Potentially needs a little bit more in the remainder of the window, but I think the defence is shaping up nicely.
Absolutely. There was obviously also the signing of Conor McGrandles from Lincoln to other sort of another body in that midfield. Is he a player that you see being sort of regularly involved, given that, Garner does have a fair few options in that area now?
Yeah, I do think McGrandles will be first choice eventually. By the sounds of it, we're able to beat off quite a lot of competition to sign him. Obviously, as a free agent after his contract expired at Lincoln last season. So I think it is a coup. He suits Garner's style. And the fact that we've really gone and tried to beat off other clubs for him would suggest that he is going to be first choice. There is a bit of an injury hangover. He hasn't played in pre-season yet, so it wouldn't surprise me if he missed maybe the first few games of the season, still catching up with that fitness, maybe played more in the League Cup or the Papa Johns to build up his fitness before properly stepping into the team on a regular basis. But no, it's a very exciting signing. A lot of Charlton fans can remember a disappointing loss at Lincoln last season where he was pulling the strings for the Imps. A really exciting signing, but obviously, as you say, tons of competition for places in midfield at the moment. So it'd be interesting to see how he gets on. At the moment, I'd say he will be first choice, but when he can get himself back up to full fitness and Garner can get a feel for the side and where the strengths and weaknesses lie.
Absolutely. Well, not a new signing, but to use the cliche, might feel like one next season. Rather, that's Charlie Kirk. Johan Borison in the comments saying keeping Kirk is our best business from a Charlton fan. Obviously, he was on loan at Blackpool. There was talk of an option to buy, and that which Blackpool sort of never triggered. Then there was talk from Neil Critchley about a new deal. He's gone, of course. Kirk still at Charlton. Marcus, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I love that comment, to be honest. Charlie Kirk's, in terms of his ceiling, is possibly one of the best players at Charlton, if not in League One. Didn't look out of place in the Championship last season. I was buzzing really when Blackpool didn't take that option to buy him in the loan deal. I think the fee was believed to be in the region of about 500k, which is something close to what we paid for him from Crewe Alexander. He's still got 3 years left on his contract at Charlton. So although there were hiccups and some teething problems last season in the first half of the season, he had to deal with a lot of adversity with the poor form he sort of stepped into under Nigel Adkins. And I think Kirk's a really exciting player going into this season under Ben Garner. Has impressed in pre-season in patches as well. So yeah, I'm really enthusiastic about Charlie Kirk. I hope he gets an extended run in the team. And if we're going to play a 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3 formation, I think that suits him quite a lot with the likes of Kirk, Blackett, Taylor, Scott Fraser in and around it in the final third. There should be plenty of excitement for the attacking football that we're going to play.
Absolutely. Well, there's some comments flooding in about transfers, but if you are watching, do let us know your predictions for where you think Charlton are going to finish in that first season under Ben Garner. Lawrence Salter has said, with Garner, you can see the signings fit a style of play that he wants to play, and this is the most obvious change from Jacko. I'm excited to see the attacking style that Garner comes with. Johan Borison's also said a lot of hate has come to Sangard that he's controlled transfers last summer. I think there was talk of his son as well being involved in that sort of area. He's saying this summer, do you think it's Garner that's had the final say, given the players that are coming in? Marcus, you feel like perhaps Ben Garner's got a bit more control over those things than previous managers under Sangard?
I would say so, yeah. The fact that players are coming from Swindon, you'd say that he's definitely having an input. I think the communication from Sangard when Garner got the job and interviews with Steve Gallen and things like that was saying that it is very much a recruitment committee. The sort of main figureheads within that being Steve Gallen, Ben Garner, Thomas Sangard and Martin Sangard. But Thomas Sangard was sort of keen to say that we're not going to get players that Ben Garner hasn't given the approval. Whether you say that means that he has the final say or not, but that there would have to be an agreement between that sort of group of people before we sign a player. So yeah, it's not really. We don't really know who has the biggest impact, what the complete ins and outs of the process are. But I would definitely say that it's a collective, and yeah, the fears that Martin Sangard would be and that Thomas Sangard would be having complete control over transfers probably hasn't materialised in the way that some people feared. In this transfer window, I think it's definitely a collective effort between those four main people.
Fantastic. Before we move on to sort of the predictions for the season ahead, then Marcus, just one more on transfers. I mean, knowing what we know about the current Charlton squad and what we know about sort of the way Ben Garner likes to play his football, what sort of business would you like to see done before that window slams shut on the 1st of September?
So in terms of the attack, I'm very content, to be honest. Miles Libra has burst onto the scene in pre-season, seems to be scoring in pretty much every game he plays. So he looks like someone that's going to come into the first team squad this season, which maybe wasn't in people's thought processes originally. Also, with the loan market later on in the window, I would be happy with that to potentially supplement some areas at the top of the pitch. Right now, I think priority still has to be defence. There isn't a senior left back at the club. Steven Sessegnon's played there in his career, but he's right-footed. I'm not sure how comfortable I am with that, particularly with us not having a left-footed centre-back either. So I would like to see a left-footed centre-back option come in. There's 4 senior centre-backs at the club at the moment, if you count Deji Allaire away, and I don't think you can really bank on Ryan Innis's fitness even as a cover player. So I would argue, even if we're going to play a back 4, if Innis is one of those centre-backs in the squad, you probably need 5 to cover that and feel comfortable about that. And I would like the left-footed option. Yeah, left back is the glaring sort of position that needs strengthening. Charles Claydon, who was on loan in non-league last season, has had a few league sub-appearances and cup appearances, has been playing left back in pre-season. This could potentially be an exciting option because he has been a winger in his limited exposure in the first team so far. So potentially a young winger converted into an attacking fullback could be exciting. I think maybe he could hang around as a backup in that position, but Sessegnon's versatility is definitely something that the club wanted to promote. So if we don't sign a left back by the first game of the season, I would expect Steven Sessegnon to start there. But yeah, left back and left centre back for me are positions that I would like to be addressed between now and the end of the transfer window. But there's not too much to do, really. I'm happy with that attacking contingent. And I think maybe just supplement it with a couple of loan signings towards the back end of the window to keep things fresh and add competition for places. In terms of outgoings, I do wonder how healthy it is to have 8 central midfielders potentially competing for 2 or 3 positions. So I think maybe we need to offload 1 or 2 midfielders just to keep that squad harmony. You don't really want senior players and in the squad having next to no playing time. So yeah, that's definitely a dilemma that will be on Garner's mind at the moment, who is higher up in the pecking order to play a key role in central midfield this season. So they're the 3 positions that I'm really looking at for the remainder of the transfer window. A left-footed centre-back, definitely a first-choice left-back, and then whether we facilitate some outgoings in central midfield just to make it a little bit more simple for Garner going into the season.
Absolutely. Well, in terms of central midfield, I think there has been talk about Jake Forster-Caskey maybe being allowed to leave the club with interest in him. A couple of comments in on the transfer stuff. JB Gardening says, all well and good signing midfielders and strikers, but as you say, Marcus, left back position is unmanned. He says, as a supporter of 56 years, I'd be happy to get promoted this season. I think that'll be echoed by most Charlton fans. We've got a couple of comments in, Marcus, about Miles Libra. First, Dominic Hansford says, do you think Miles Libra has earned his place in the squad now? He thinks he's better than Burstow. And sort of back that up, Lawrence Salter says, Marcus, can you see Libra playing more than maybe 10 games this season? He says he doesn't want to see Libra go the same way as Burstow. Obviously, it's early days. We've only seen him pre-season, sometimes hard to make a judgment. So where do you think at the moment his place is in that squad? Do you think we could see him making sort of 10 plus appearances?
Definitely. In all competitions, I have no doubt he'll make more than 10 plus appearances, especially if he doesn't go on loan. An impact sub, I think, would potentially be the first port of call for integrating him to the first team. For 18 years old, he's very physically developed. So I don't think there's any concerns with that in terms of the step up to senior football. And yeah, has looked very, very strong in pre-season. Be interesting to see how he gets on with the strength of the opposition with Sutton and Swansea City, the final 2 friendlies, how Leburn handles that. He can play all across the front 3 as well, which gives Garner more options and more flexibility, which could in turn give him more playing time. I'd argue he's possibly already above Josh Davison in the pecking order in the forward positions. In terms of worrying about the Mason Burstow situation, yeah, I was gutted to lose him last January. Leburn did sign his first professional contract with Charlton earlier this week, which I think was a 3-year deal, which puts Charlton in a much stronger position than where they were with Burstow, who I think's contract was going to expire this summer anyway. So there was more of a temptation to cash in with a less chance that they were going to be able to convince him to sign a new deal anyway. So yeah, even if he did go the same way of Burstow, we'd be recouping much more of a transfer fee than we did for Burstow to Chelsea. So yeah, I'm not as uneasy about Leburn breaking into the team and catching the headlines as I was about Burstow, because we are in a more secure position in terms of the asset at the moment. So yeah, it's really exciting, to be honest. You usually see a younger player sort of come out of pre-season at Charlton, and it seems like Miles Lieburn is the one to do it this time around.
Absolutely. Certainly seems to be one to watch for the season ahead. Well, we're going to take a look now at sort of the League One as a whole and where Charlton sat in it. But as I said a few minutes ago, please do get your predictions for the season in via the comments. Marcus, it looks likely really to be a really competitive promotion race in League One again. Ipswich gathering pace under Kieran McKenna. Derby County making moves in the transfer market. Barnsley down, of course, with Michael Duff. Peterborough always there or thereabouts. Then you've got your Portsmouths, your MK Dons, your Oxfords. I could go on and on and on. Do you think that makes it a sort of tough first season for Ben Garner to come in?
I actually see it the other way, to be honest. I see, because of the strength of the league and where we finished last season, I think Charlton fans will always demand and want promotion when we're in League One, given the size of the club and the history of it. But I think the expectations will be a little bit lower because of the disappointment of last season. And I think that could work in Garner's favour in giving him a little bit more time, a little bit more patience to implement the philosophy that he wants to. And progress on last season, improving that finish and ensuring that fans don't have relegation concerns would be refreshing. Obviously, it's going to be tough for him with the start and the fixtures that Charlton have got, but I think he can see that in a positive light because he could see it as a transition season, thinking maybe if I can get top 10 and give Charlton more of a promotion playoff push than they did last season, then that could be something to really build rapport with supporters and at least have fans believing that in the long term they're heading in the right direction and produce some more aesthetically pleasing and entertaining football at the Valley. So even though it's going to be tough to get promoted because of the sheer strength of the clubs up there, we saw that last season. I don't think it's really going to get any easier, to be honest. I think he could potentially see that as a positive because I think looking at it realistically, expectations will be a little bit lower. Thomas Sandgaard has spoke about targeting the top two, but he says a lot of things, to be honest. So I'm not seeing that as really a realistic target, given the strengths of, as you mentioned, the likes of Sheffield Wednesday, Ipswich, Derby County, even the likes of Peterborough coming down from the Championship as well, I think will be strong. So, I think coming in this season, given what followed Ben Garner and the disappointing performances and of course league finish, I think it's almost a nice position he can improve on that, which potentially would have been seen in years gone by as a below par finish, and actually because of what's gone before him, it could be seen as progress merely to finish in the top 10 or something like that.
Well, Bet365 have the Addicts at 13-2 to secure promotion. But Marcus, the big question, I guess, what are your predictions for the season ahead? Can you see the Addicts going up under Garner?
I think promotion is a long shot from here, to be honest. There's going to be a lot of change and a lot of patience is going to be required. Changing the style of play so on such a large scale compared to the kick and rush at times football that we're playing under Johnny Jackson will take time. That's not a quick process. We saw a small comparison would be Russell Martin at Swansea last season. They took loads of time. I think they ended up finishing 15th or something like that. I don't expect Charlton to finish that low. But I think when you want to change the style of play, there has to be patience and a belief that it is going to stand us in better stead in the long term, potentially, rather than this season. I do think promotion is a long shot at this stage. But if Garner can give Charlton a more credible playoff push than they were able to sustain last season, I would definitely see that as progress and something that the club could build on moving forward. There's quite a nice younger core in the squad with players with the best years ahead of them in their careers. So it's very much a project for me. I don't think short term we can go in expecting promotion. And I think the role that the supporters are going to play within that this season is going to be very important. Obviously, last season, starting the battling relegation essentially under Nigel Adkins, and the fixture list hasn't been kind to Charlton again. And just the way supporters tend to work. I do think if Charlton struggle in the opening few weeks of the season, that the knives could be out for Garner already. I don't want that to happen, and given all of what he's trying to change, I don't think that would necessarily be fair. Just to rattle off our first 7 fixtures, there's only one where I look at that and see it as a really banker of Charlton should get 3 points. They start the season away at Accrington Stanley. That's always a tough game. And then they've got Derby at home, again, a relegated side. Then Sheffield Wednesday away, amongst the favourites to win League One. Then Plymouth Argyle at home, a team that missed the playoffs just by 1 place last season. Then Cambridge United at home, that match that you would expect Charlton to pick up 3 points. Then they've got Wycombe Wanderers away, playoff finalists from last season. And then finishing that 7, you've got Bolton Wanderers away, a team that were on automatic promotion form for pretty much the whole second half of last season. So patience is required. For me, promotion is a long shot this season coming, but I do expect Garner to show progress from where Charlton finished last season. And I think an improvement on that finish and where they're sort of trending in the league table for most of the season would be an acceptable start, and something that they could build on in the long term.
Yeah, certainly that early season schedule sounds like something that a Millwall fan might dream up for Charlton. Well, Johan Borison has had his say. He said, I think at the moment, 6th to 10th place this season with 3 more, I am confident of playoffs at the least. Well, by the sounds of it, a fair bit of positivity surrounding the Addicts at the moment. If perhaps not a promotion push this season, then if Garner can sort of get things going in the right direction, then the next season will be particularly exciting. Well, that's everything from us on Football League World TV today and this week. That sees me to say thanks everyone for watching, and thank you, Marcus.